We will now call to order meeting of the Clean Energy Alliance Board of Directors, January 30th, 2025, 2:03. May I please have a roll call from our board secretary?
Yes, thank you. Board Member Spellich. Board Member Nunez.
Told you.
Present.
Board Member Becker. Present. Board Member Garcia.
Here.
Board Member Bhat Patel.
Here.
Vice Chair Melendez.
Here.
And I will note Board Member Figueroa is absent.
Now I will have us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Before we do that, can we have our member who is appearing remotely just state her remote appearance?
Yes, please be seated and we'll hear her reasoning.
Yes, thank you. I am here remotely because my son is sick. So due to childcare reasons, I have just cause for participating remotely.
And is there any person over the age of 18 in the room with you?
No.
And will you just indicate to the board if you have to leave the room to care for a child, or if anybody over the age of 18 comes into the room, please?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you for that. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now we will move into any board comments and announcemaents. I don't have any immediate announcements, but I want to say welcome to our new board members. Councilmember Maria Nunez from San Marcos. And I'm sorry, can you please remind me of your name? I just met you this morning. Spell it? John Spellich from the city of Del Mar. Thank you so much for joining us. And now we will move into public comment. Do we have any public comment at this time?
We do not have any non-agenda public speakers.
All right. We will go forward with the approval of the minutes from our previous meetings. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move approval.
I will second it.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Can we hear the vote, please?
Board Member Spellich.
I think I have to abstain since I wasn't in the meeting.
Actually, you do not have to abstain. That's a common misperception. So you can still vote.
Aye.
Board Member Nunez.
Aye.
Board Member Becker.
Yes.
Board Member Garcia.
Yes.
Board Member Bhat Patel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Melendez.
Aye. And I believe we have a quick update from our CEO, Greg Wade, about some changes in the agenda.
Yes, thank you, Chair Melendez. If it pleases the board, I'd recommend that we move the CEO report to the consent agenda because we've got a pretty substantial new business agenda today, and look for a motion to do so.
I would move that we update the agenda based on those recommendations. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Could I have a vote?
Board Member Spellich.
Yes.
Nunez.
Aye.
Board Member Becker.
Yes.
Board Member Garcia.
Yes.
Board Member Bhat Patel.
Yes.
Vice Chair Melendez.
Yes. Great. And with that approval, we would move to item 1, Clean Energy Alliance Board of Directors, appointment of chair and vice chair for calendar year 2025. The recommendation is to appoint a chair, and serving as your vice chair has been wonderful. I've gained a lot of knowledge. It's been an honor working closely with our CEO and learning under our previous chair these past several years. We have many longstanding members on the board, and I think that there's several opportunities for leadership here and collaboration in decision-making. And so I would love the opportunity to continue my service and leadership as your chair. If I am promoted to that, I will be committed to building consensus amongst our board and holding our staff to the highest of standards, and of course, promoting equity and promoting transparency within our organization. So with that, I'll move forward with any discussion.
Sounds good to me. I would move that we appoint Katie Melendez as our chair of CEA.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you for that. I'll go ahead and ask for a vote unless there's additional discussion. Seeing none, we can have a vote.
Board Member Spellich.
Aye.
Board Member Nunez.
Aye.
Board Member Becker.
Yes?
Board Member Garcia. Board Member Bot Patel.
Yes.
Vice Chair Melendez.
Aye. Thank you for your confidence and opportunity to serve in this leadership position. We now, I think, could move into a discussion about vice chair. I would love to serve with any of our board members as vice chair. There's a few additional meetings throughout the month. Whether you're interested in serving, to learn a little bit more or to advance your leadership, I think that it's a great opportunity to serve. Anybody who is interested in vice chair, I would ask for you to maybe speak a little bit on what type of experiences you have that would you would lend to the vice chair position and how you would promote the goals of Clean Energy Alliance. I know that there might be interest amongst our board, but I really want to have an open field discussion about it so that we can hear from any of the members that are interested. So with that, I would open up any discussion, any recommendations or any hands raised to take on the position. Any thoughts? Any volunteers for vice chair? Chrissy?
I would certainly serve as vice chair, and I would love to be your vice chair. I don't want to be greedy. I have served 2 years as chair on this board before, so it was my thought today to maybe give somebody else an opportunity, and I thought to nominate Christian Garcia. I didn't want to put more meetings. I don't think he understood. We have some other regulatory meetings that need to be attended, and I know you have a full-time job as well, so I don't want to put more pressure on you, but maybe we could ask you if there's extra meetings might be obtainable for you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I do appreciate the opportunity. I do, as mentioned, have another full-time job. So it would be quite a bit of work unless I'd be able to move my meetings to after 3 o'clock. I'm not sure how that works. And I understand that it'd be a few more meetings throughout the month. Is that correct?
I think we'll turn to Greg for that question.
Yeah, so it would be participation potentially on the Risk Oversight Committee, which meets on a quarterly basis. And so that would be typically fall on a Thursday, and we can work on scheduling with whatever members are on that committee. And from time to time, there are additional meetings that we might just schedule as needed, but not anything that's set in stone at this point.
If we are able to meet from 3 on third, whatever on a quarterly meeting, I'd be happy to accept it. But just to let you know, this is the only time that throughout the month that I could do anything really before 3 o'clock. Yeah.
Okay,
So
understood. We could, again, it's up to the committee. The committee, it consists mostly of staff and our consultants, our procurement staff, consultants, and you all. So I think we can work with your schedule should you choose to accept or get voted as deputy chair.
I do have a follow-up question to that. Will this potentially create a burden to our staff?
Not at all. No, the scheduling for this, I think we can work within the schedule that you have so that we can accommodate that. I don't believe that to be a staff burden at all.
Thank you.
if it's not a burden, then yes, I'll accept the nominee.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to put Mr. Garcia as our vice chair.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? All right, we may have a vote.
Board Member Spellich. Board Member Nunez.
Aye.
Board Member Becker.
Yes.
Apologies. Board Member Bot Patel.
Yes.
Board Member Garcia.
Yes.
Chair Melendez.
Yes. Thank you and welcome. And I'm sure we'll be able to be flexible so that we can get all of our tasks completed. Next, we'll move to our consent calendar. We don't have any changes. There's a number of cleanup items here that most of us should have been able to review with our CEO, Greg Wade. Would I have a motion to approve our consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
And should I procedurally check to see if we have any public comments on this item?
Yes, thank you. And for the record, we do not have any speakers on any items on the consent calendar.
All right, with that, we will vote to approve the consent calendar.
Board Member Spellich.
Yes.
Board Member Nunez. Aye. Board Member Becker.
Yes.
Board Member Bot Patel.
Yes.
Vice Chair Garcia.
Yes.
Chair Melendez.
Yes. Thank you, and that passes. Next, we will move forward to item 8, which is a public hearing. And with that, I will formally open the public hearing. And I would ask for staff to prepare any public comments that are in the queue and to provide a presentation on Clean Energy Alliance Residential Peak Smart Savers Program, terms and conditions, and setting rates for Peak Smart Savers Program.
Thank you, Chair Melendez. Wait for the will the presentation appear up on the screen? And I'll get it up there. Thank you. This is a demand response program that we are looking for your review and approval of. It is a public hearing, and I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin McGee for a presentation on this program. Caitlin.
That working for us? There we go.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Good afternoon. I am Caitlin McGee, one of 2 key accounts program managers here at Clean Energy Alliance. Today, I'll be covering the residential Peak Smart Savers program that we hope to introduce in the summer. So a little bit of background here. Customers who have previously been enrolled in programs like critical peak pricing, TOU, DRP, their special rates with SDG&E, those customers become ineligible to participate in those programs when they are transitioned to community choice aggregators such as Clean Energy Alliance. This is not unique to our service territory. Similar programs exist in other IOU territories. And they have the same limitations with community choice aggregation programs as well. So to give you an idea of how many customers have been automatically disenrolled from the TOU DRP program that SDG&E runs, it's a little bit over 1,200 customers. And there on the screen, we have a breakdown of how many customers were enrolled in this rate before they joined Clean Energy Alliance. So a little bit of variation across our member cities. When we did auto-enroll our customers, we mailed them a courtesy letter notifying them of their disenrollment from the TOU DRP rate plan.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could you please remind us what TOU DRP is? I know it's time of use, but
so it's time of use, demand response. I'm not sure what the P is.
yeah, I couldn't remember either. So, okay.
But I can find out and get back to you.
It's not necessary.
It could be peak, it could be program. I'll confirm though. So I was mentioning our customers did receive a courtesy letter notifying them of their disenrollment. And to my knowledge, we had not received any questions or feedback from customers to our customer service center. Peak, there we go. So to mirror SDG&E's program, we have decided to propose the Peak Smart Savers program. The Peak Smart Savers program would be available to the following customers on residential rates, folks on TOU, DRP, DR, DR1, DR2, and then the EV TOU rates. And in mirroring SDG&E's program, we will also be proposing calling up to 18 event days. Event days are typically days where grid conditions are expected to be constrained and demand is high. So grid prices are high. Customers will be notified of the event days in advance via email or text. And on those event days, customers are encouraged to reduce their usage during the peak hours of 4 to 9 p.m. The rate structure is designed to provide a 30% rate discount on all other days, non-event days. So essentially, our customers would receive a 30% rate discount throughout the year unless there is an event called. When an event is called, they would pay an additional $1.10 per kilowatt hour during that 4 to 9 peak hour event. So there could be cost savings. And then that load adder really encourages folks to reduce their use during that time. Since this would be a new program, we'll be offering bill protection for the first year of service. So customers who sign up for the program in 2025 will be eligible for bill protection for the first 12 months of their service. The customer will need to participate in the program for the full 12 months to be eligible for that bill protection. So any customer who ends up paying more on their bill, say they didn't reduce their use significantly during those peak hours of 4 to 9, and over the course of the past year, they ended up paying much more than they would have on their previous rate structure, then we will credit them the difference. We'll credit them that difference by issuing a check and sending it to their mailing. And one thing to note on that adder, the $1.10 adder, is that adder is slightly lower than SDG&E's. So for their program, their adder is $1.16. It's a small savings. So we hope that that's a benefit of our program, that we're still incentivizing reduction during peak hours, but it's slightly less than if you were participating in SDG&E's TOU DRP program. Customers will be able to enroll by contacting our customer service line, or online we'll have a website with an enrollment, all that. So why now? One reason is definitely we want to be offering a solution for customers they were previously offered, but also this is related to the Solar Plus program. So at the November board meeting, we, in this board meeting, also had the agreements to expand the Solar Plus program. And in that expansion, we are offering a rate for income eligible folks. These are people who are participating in the Care or Fair program. They will be able to access the Solar Plus program at a significantly discounted rate per kilowatt hour rate. And that rate is subsidized through the self-generation incentive program through the state. So for folks to be eligible for the SGIP funds, they must also be enrolled in a qualified demand response program. Currently, there are, I think, a very small handful, maybe 2 or 3 qualified demand response programs under the SGIP program. They're all programs similar to TOU DRP that only SDG&E customers can participate in. So the reason behind the Peak Smart Savers program is we'll submit it as a qualified DR program for approval. That way, our customers will be eligible for the SGIP funding and can access that Solar Plus lower income rate. So we'll submit that for approval, and then customers will also be required to participate in the Peak Smart Savers program for the life of their Solar Plus program. So they must stay enrolled in the demand response program. So our next steps, next month, we'll focus on designing the program website for Peak Smart Savers program, developing our marketing materials, and then we'll have a kind of an open early enrollment and gauge interest in the program. And then we're targeting a June launch for this program. So that gives us time to implement the systems on the billing side and also start signing up folks for Solar Plus and getting them enrolled in this program. So with that, I'll take questions.
Thank you. At this time, the board can ask questions and we'll have more discussion in a moment. My one question was to just clarify, you mentioned up to 18 events throughout the year. Is that to allow for both incentive and decentive programs? Or just one or the other?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
So you mentioned 18 events per
Mhm.
year, and those are events that would trigger the program, and that's from an incentive and decentive
Mhm.
basis. Is that right?
So the event days will really only activate the decentive
Okay.
and the adder. So if you think about it, all 300 and whatever days of the year, the customer is receiving a 30% discount, and only on those event days they're paying a premium
I see.
from the hours of 4 to 9 p.m. And the event days are determined by pricing signals of the grid. We have pulled in some data, and for our first year, we estimate maybe there's going to be 4 to 6 event days, but we'll play around with that and fine tune as we go.
I see, but it's up to 18 and we expect it won't be
Yes.
maybe more than 6,
Yeah.
would you say? But we don't have a forecast of that yet.
We don't have a forecast of that yet. And I think we'll learn a lot from the first year of this program, which is another reason to offer bill protection. But typically, if you look at another IOU program similar to this, they only maximize their event days when it's extreme conditions. If you think about maybe in 2022, when we had severe grid conditions, some IOUs maxed out those days very early on. So it gives us wiggle room.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that. Any other questions from the board? Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. So can we just expand a little bit on those 18 days? Can you just explain what are the conditions that we'd be seeing? Well, let's start off with that. What are the conditions that we would be seeing that could potentially trigger it? And also, I want to know how like the financing works. I mean, 30% seems pretty high to me. Is that, I guess, can you explain the financing and how that evens out or breaks even at the end?
Yeah, so for the event days, we're keeping it kind of simple right now, focused on the pricing signals with the day ahead pricing at CAISO. So we've developed a threshold of day ahead pricing at $400. We've done some data analysis and found that that's kind of where we could see the most cost savings is when prices surpass $400. And would be most critical for reducing usage. So that's the criteria for now. In the future, it could become more complex where we're pulling in local temperature data, weather forecasts, what have you. But for now, we're focused on CAISO pricing signals. And that's also a requirement of the SGIP demand response program is that for the program to become qualified and approved, it has to be directly tied to CAISO grid conditions and pricing. As far as the financing for this program, we're really just focused on the enrollment of Solar Plus and folks who were previously disenrolled. I think we'll learn a lot more about the financial impact as we grow our enrollment. But right now, we haven't done too much of a focus on that piece.
Okay.
And the 30% rate discount is really just to mirror SDG&E's program at this time. And
What's
then
SDG&E's? Sorry.
It's 30%
It is
discount
30,
also.
okay.
Mhm. And the only area where we differ in the rate is that adder on event days, our adder is slightly lower than SDG&Es. So hopefully customers aren't paying significantly higher on those days. They should reduce their use.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
And I just wanted to, Board Member Becker asked about an acronym earlier, and that for the benefit of the new board members, we're going to be using a lot of acronyms. So I would just encourage our staff where possible to say what those stand for. For example, CARE customers or California Alternative Rates for Energy. And that's a commonly used acronym. CAISO is the California Independent System Operator. They manage the grid for the state. And those are just two that just came up, DR, demand response. So it is a world filled with acronyms. And so at any point, if you're wanting us to say what that means, by all means ask, because I sometimes forget myself. So just wanted to point that out.
And we had a list of all the acronyms. Did they get a copy of that?
Yeah.
Because we're going to quiz them next time, right?
We are scheduling an orientation for the new board members, and they'll be provided with all that. It was hard scheduling with the selection of the members coming the same
right.
month. So we will be getting that to them.
Okay. Okay, so, and I just had a quick question. So the Solar Plus people are all going to be on the Peak Smart Savers?
Only the customers who will be taking advantage of the income eligible rate for Care Fair customers. So everyone else will not be required to participate in this program, only those who are taking advantage of that heavily discounted low income rate.
Okay, and then there's other people that can it's an option to opt into this.
Mhm.
And so it'd be like optioning into the time of use program that you could do at SDG&E. Is that kind of?
You'll
What
keep
is-
your rate structure that you have, right? If it falls within those 5 rates that qualify for this program, which the majority of our customers are on TOU DR1. It's kind of that normal TOU DR1. I think a way to think of the Peak Smart Savers program is more of an additive program. So you'll keep your rate structure, but the program piece is a 30% discount on that same rate structure, and then the adder on the event days.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Then Member Nunez, did you have a question?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is really basic, and thinking about the start of the presentation, the disenrollment numbers that we looked at. Can you help me to understand what does our communication look like with our customers? You mentioned a letter having been sent to our customers. What are the possibilities of communication? When we want to communicate with our customer, what does that look like? What are the options?
So in the case of the disenrollment of the TOU DRP program, they just received one letter that occurred 1 month before their enrollment in Clean Energy Alliance. But we have a staffed call center that operates from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Weekdays. On the off hours, we also have an automated system that customers can make their selections through the phone. They can opt out of the program, they can opt up or down, and I believe they can even request a callback. Customers always have that same access online to opt out or opt up or down at any time.
Can I ask a question about that? When you say online, you're talking about a customer creates some sort of online account, or what does that look like? And my apologies, these are really basic questions. I just want to make sure I understand the level of communication, and I'll have some follow-up questions.
Absolutely. We make it pretty simple online. So the customer doesn't have to make an account. They just input their SDG&E account number into kind of an online form, and then it takes them into another page that has their information and gives them all of kind of the service options of opting up, down, out.
So within this context, so as a customer, do I have the option of requesting text messages, emails? What does that look like?
We don't have text messaging in place right now. That is one of the things we'll be adding with this program. We currently use a system called Constant Contact. So customers can subscribe to our email list. When you think about the Solar Plus program and some future marketing we'll consider, we have the ability to send mass emails, mass mailers, and the data we are using is associated with the customer's electric account. So it's pretty up to date.
So this letter that was sent out to our customers, it was sent via US regular mail?
I'm not sure. I can check on that. I'll check on that for you. It was through US mail. I don't know if it was first class or regular.
Okay.
We use a mailing house for all of our mailers, including our required postcards for pre and post enrollment.
Okay. So if a customer never saw this letter, didn't receive it, the dog ate it, how does a customer find this letter?
They can give us a call at our call center. To your point, it was that one letter. We utilize the data that's on file with that electric account. And we have our records of who they were mailed to. It's all attached to their account with us. But if the dog ate it, we have not sent any follow-up letters at all.
Okay.
So what, if I could just interrupt just for a second. Yes, they were sent via US mail. Typically, the customers that we're talking about, the 1,222 customers who were in this rate would have elected to be on that rate. And so they generally follow up with that designation. What we can do is make a specific point to reach out to those customers with this program as well as part of this, launching this program on our behalf. We can let those customers know that it is, again, eligible for renewal following that disenrollment.
Okay. And I'm not sure if I understand at this point what's in the works in terms of offering more flexibility for communication with our customers. So that's something that I'm going to be particularly interested in seeing. And the other piece that's not clear to me, are we looking to re-enroll these customers, and are we looking to increase the enrollment? Is my other question, if you can talk about that.
Yes, that's absolutely a goal of this program, is to re-enroll customers who were previously disenrolled. Like Greg mentioned, the folks who had previously enrolled made that active choice. And we have talked to customers, residential and commercial, who had taken full advantage of the program that SDG&E offered. So there's definitely interest for folks to re-enroll. And that will be one of the goals, along with the Solar Plus SGIP rate. And of course, exceeding that enrollment would be great too. I think for the first year, it'll be a slow build, but definitely hope to re-enroll majority of folks who got disenrolled.
So at what point, or maybe we know that already, what will our enrollment look like? I don't have a sense of what that is. Does anybody?
I don't think so. It's a little hard to gauge, right? The only data we really have is the chart I shared of who was enrolled previously and trying to achieve at least that re-enrollment. I think as we get into the program and start understanding our sign-up rates and pushing our marketing materials, we could have a better sense of some forecast, hopefully for our second year of this program.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Thank you for those questions, Member Becker.
And it just occurred to me that we've got a lot of new cities. Have we taken a look at whether we need maybe some Spanish letters, or does our website have a little button where you can put it into Spanish?
We do have our materials on our website in Spanish. It's a separate little tab that you can follow, but for the marketing of this program, we'll absolutely be creating content in Spanish as well.
Great, thank you for those questions. It prompted another question that I have, since we are expecting to be reviewing this program as it rolls out and we'll be developing it. When will be the next time that we review the program?
That's a great question. I'm sure we could provide an update in the CEO report.
Yeah, I think a couple of things are going to be true based on the questions is that we will monitor the effectiveness of our marketing materials to see that we get how much additional enrollment we get in this. And just to make clear that CEA customers that were disenrolled, they were disenrolled from the SDG&E peak program. So they're still CEA members. So we'll actively engage with them to see that they have information to become re-enrolled in our program. And we will also monitor to see how effective our marketing approach to this program is to get additional enrollees. Obviously, the target would be exceeding the 1,222 that we previously had. So based on that, we will come back to the board, assuming the program gets implemented, and give an update as to how the program's working, what the enrollment looks like, and what kind of cost savings, keeping in mind that the cost savings from the peak demand periods is what's going to finance the rate savings for those customers. So we'll come back and report to you on what we find.
I see, thank you. Couple more members, opportunity to have them heard. Member Spillick and Member Bob Patel, any comments? All right, one more comment from me, just wondering about the eligibility. We talked about the disenrollment from SDG&E program. Is our eligibility, does it match the SDG&E program, or is it more broad and welcoming to our customers?
So the eligibility criteria is based off of the rate schedule customers are on, and that matches what SDG&E's criteria is.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Now, do we have any public comments on this hearing?
We do not have any public speakers.
All right. Next, I will move to discussing the adoption of the resolution, setting the rates for Peak Smart Savers Program and approving residential Peak Smart Savers Program terms and conditions. I think that this is an important program for us to offer a service and initiative to customers where we know there's going to be times of great demand, and we would expect to see cost savings to our customers if they can utilize their electric services more strategically throughout the year. So
Melendez, sorry to interrupt, but if you're done asking staff questions, it would be appropriate to close the public hearing before entering into discussions.
okay, and since we have no speakers as well, we will go ahead and close the public hearing. And I would like to entertain a motion to adopt the program.
I'll move to approve.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, let's.
So just to clarify, is that a motion to adopt resolution number 2025-004?
Yes.
Thank you.
Second. Let's proceed with the vote.
Thank you. Board Member Spellich,
Yes.
Board Member Nunez, Board Member Becker,
Yes.
Board Member Bob Patel,
Yes.
Vice Chair Garcia,
Yes.
Chair Melendez.
Yes. All right, thank you for passing that new program, and please give us updates as we move along. Now we have new business. Item number 9, regulatory update from Keys and Fox. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Oops.
There we go. Chair Melendez, Vice Chair Garcia, members, thanks very much for allowing me to speak. My name is Tim Lindell. I'm a partner at law firm Keys Fox. For those of you who don't know us, we are a law firm specializing in representing organizations that are opposed to public utilities. Here in California, we practice all across the country. However, each board meeting, I give a 5 to 10 minute regulatory update on important things that are happening at the California Public Utilities Commission, the Energy Commission, and the California Independent System Operator. This month, we're going to talk about power charge indifference adjustment rates. That is a new acronym for this meeting called the PCIA. And then we'll also talk about a new rulemaking or an ongoing rulemaking at the California Public Utilities Commission called the Provider of Last Resort, or the POLAR. One more acronym for you all. So especially for new members, the PCIA is really important to understand. So I'm going to take just a small part of this meeting and then a small part of the next meeting to give a little bit of background on this important rate. The commission has stated it's going to open a new rulemaking soon to revise how the PCIA is calculated. So today's going to be kind of a 101 course, and then next month's meeting will have a bit of a 201 course. As an overview, the law requires that SDG&E's remaining customers be left economically indifferent to the fact that CEA's customers left SDG bundled service. So in other words, SDG&E procured resources to serve your customers. Those customers then left SDG&E's service, and the commission created the PCIA as an exit fee to ensure that those customers that stayed with SDG are indifferent to your customers. It's a way to make sure that CEA's customers are still, paying their fair share for the resources that remain with SDG&E. Importantly, the PCIA can be negative, which means that SDG&E's customers would be paying CEA's customers, or it can be positive, which would be the opposite. Key question as to whether those rates are positive or negative has to do with market value of SDG&E's remaining generation resources. That is a complicated issue and will be part of our 201 course. Why does the PCIA matter? Well, some customers are going to pay very close attention to the difference between SDG&E's generation rates and CEA's generation rates, making a decision whether to remain with CEA or to opt out and turn to SDG&E service. We might call that difference between SDG&E's rates and CEA's rates headroom, for example. The PCIA fits into that equation because it's added on top of the portfolio costs, the cost of resources that clean energy allows. So another way to think about this slide is you have two levers to pull to make sure that Clean Energy Alliance's rates are comparable to SDG's rates. The first is circle on the left there, the portfolio costs, and that's Dan Peckham's job to make sure that CEA's portfolio costs are the cost of energy. And the second part is that PCIA revenue requirement, and that's my job to make sure that the PCIA is as low as it can be within the framework that the commission set forward on how to calculate that rate. So the actual PCIA rates that your customers pay are litigated each year in a proceeding at the Public Utilities Commission called the Energy Resource Recovery Account, or ERA proceeding. Case starts in mid-May each year. It concludes in mid-December each year. So we just had our case finished for this year. SDG&E put forward the final PCIA rates that customers are going to pay, and they're up here on the screen. There's a few things to point out. So you have 4 different PCIA rates, one for Solana Beach, that's the 2017 vintage, one for Carl's Bend and Del Mar, that's the 2020 vintage, Escondido and San Marcos, the 2022 vintage, and then Oceanside, this 2023. You can also see in that column on the far right that PCIA rates went down this year, which is good to see. So Solana's Beach went down by a little more than ½ cent, all the way up to Oceanside and Vista, which enjoyed almost a 4% or 4-cent reduction in their PCIA rates. So these are PCI rates. This is the introduction to those, the Energy Resource Recovery Account proceedings. Next step on this is that we will have most likely a rulemaking coming soon, likely to change the formulas that are used to set these rates. And next meeting, we'll have a little bit of more of a primer on what that formula looks like, what moves those rates. All right, the second item for today's regulatory update is the Provider of Last Resort rulemaking, or the POLAR. The POLAR is the entity that will provide electric service if another load serving entity like an electric service provider or a CCA, is no longer able to provide a customer service. So utilities like SDG&E are the current pollers in California, but legislation required that a path be created for non-utilities like CCAs to become the poller. Now, the headline for this proceeding is that there had been rumors over the last few years that SDG&E was interested in getting out of the procurement business and perhaps opening the door for a different entity to become the poller. We had filings from the utilities and CCAs over the past month in this proceeding, and SDG&E's comments make very clear that in truth, it has no interest in abandoning its role as the poller in San Diego County. They had some of the most aggressive comments here on what it would take to become the poller, and then make clear that they're happy with where. So to some degree, that puts those rumors to rest. Next steps in this case will be that ALJ will issue a ruling, administrative law judge, ALJ, will enter a ruling requesting briefs on the extent of commission's jurisdiction over a non-utility provider of last resort. But to some degree, because of SDG&E's comments, we think that the heat will be turned down on the urgency of the proceeding, and it's likely to proceed at a slower. Right. Scintillating stuff. I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I do have, in terms of a ruling, are we expecting to see that this year or next year, or do you have a sense of the time frame?
Yeah, and the commission has energy resource recovery account proceedings for all three utilities. In all three of those cases, the commission said it will be soon opening a rulemaking to change how the PCIA is calculated, in particular, one piece of it called the resource adequacy benchmark. So we anticipate that in the first quarter of this year, it should happen soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for these updates.
Mhm.
Do we have any public comments on this item?
We do not have any speakers for this item.
All right, and there are no further comments from the board and no need to make a motion, just receiving this information. We'll go ahead and move on to item 10. And that is the energy storage agreement with IEP Camp Pendleton Energy Storage and authorizing execution of the ESA. Thank you.
Thanks, and I'll just introduce this as the chair just announced. This is approval of a Camp Pendleton battery storage agreement, and I'll turn it over to Dan Peckham for the presentation. Dan.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, board members. I'm Dan Peckham, I'm CEA's Power Procurement Manager. I'm going to be speaking on this item and also from the IEP team, the counterpart for the Mike Penze, who's here as well. So the item here is requesting the CEA board to approve a 20-year energy storage agreement, or ESA, with this project, the energy storage project. This is a long duration energy storage capacity agreement, not 1.9 million-ish per. And to authorize execution of all the documents for this agreement subject to attorney approval. Right now, we have a executed term sheet for the project and are in the process of finalizing actual ESA itself. The project is on a tight timeline, so based on the commercial terms staying the same for approval now. So a little bit of background for why we're interested in this project. The California Public Utilities Commission, CPUC, has two decisions which obligate us and all other load serving entities to go out and procure new incremental capacity resources, which will be able to come online and be available to deliver electricity to the grid as non-renewable resources start to take off. And how they did it is it's a series of kind of incremental capacity requirements for each load serving entity between 2023 and 2028. The contracts that we need to be at least 10 years with these projects. There are certain subcategories of what we need to do, but generally speaking, if it's a resource that's actually producing new energy, it needs to be non-fossil fuel. And the key point on this one is that bottom bullet. which is that resources, there's subcategories for clean firm electricity, which think geothermal essentially, and then also long duration storage as in battery storage project instance that can charge and then deliver energy for 8 hours. So a little bit about this specific project. This was received through our sort of unsolicited open offer form. It's also been a project that has been on our radar for previous RFPs. We routinely go out looking for projects that will help us meet these requirements, various procurements. This specific project is a good fit for our specific long duration storage requirement. Our requirement is 3.5 megawatts. It's about the right size. It's a local project. It is a specifically long duration storage technology from EOS, is the battery storage company, US designed and manufactured. And the project has also already been approved for a CEC grant for a portion of the costs. And it's at the point of really getting ready to start construction. Our contract here gets it over the line. The agreement itself, it's a 20-year agreement. That's essentially the duration or life cycle of the battery technology product. And what we would be essentially buying through this agreement is both the resource adequacy, as in the capacity as part of our state obligations to have enough capacity available to meet our electricity load at all times. And then also we can charge and discharge the facility essentially almost year round for taking advantage of when there's solar going on in the middle of the day, we can charge it then and then discharge it in the evenings or early mornings where there's more of a need when the prices are. This project is especially unique. You'll notice it's on the Camp Pendleton site in, I guess, sort of as part of being able to use the space on that site. It is going to be used for resilience and training purposes by the base during small portions of the year. So essentially the base is using it for those portions and we would be having to have access and use it for the rest of it. I'll take any questions on the project side.
Member Becker?
Yes, I would love to have you talk a little bit about the battery and how it's different than the lithium ion batteries that we've heard a couple fires in the community.
Yeah,
This is
sure.
completely different.
Yes, so this is a different technology. It's a zinc bromide technology. I think primarily or part of what you're referencing is battery fires. This is the non-flammable battery solution. If there are any sort of more specifics of it, have Mike come up and speak to some of the details of it or other questions. I think the key piece of it is the non-flammable portion.
Right, exactly. So that's.
And a term you often, sorry, I'll have you address it. The term you often hear associated with lithium ion, particularly there's two types of lithium ion. Lithium ion, is it nickel, cobalt, manganese, and lithium ion phosphate, which are a newer generation, are subject to potential what's called thermal runaway, meaning that their volatility is such that the hotter it gets, it can trigger additional heat events in adjacent batteries. And so these types of battery solutions do not have that potential of thermal runaway. That's my layperson's explanation. Sorry to jump in.
That was pretty good. Thanks for having me here and considering our project. My name is Mike Frenzy. I'm the Senior Vice President of Operations and Construction for IEP, International Electric Power. As well, I'm the Principal Investigator for the California Energy Commission, and I've been working with this technology for a decade. We have batteries on Camp Pendleton that are operating. And specifically to your question, the battery technology over the past decade has been developed to address thermal runaway. The technology itself was developed in the electrolyte to be non-thermal. That's been proven by third-party labs. The chemistry inside of it is actually a colorless salt, like it's a salt water, more or less. So it's impossible to light it on fire. And the only types of fires that you could see would be from typical electrical components that you would see in any building or facility. So they're kind of like the anti-fire type of battery. And then they've also been specifically engineered to be long duration, and then very, they don't degrade over time over the 20 years. So they're non-thermal, they're highly usable and very robust, and been proven over the past 10 years with state health.
Thank you. Additional questions? Yes. Yes, member.
Yeah, just one quick question. How, being on a military base, I would assume there's some priority questions that will come up. Can you sort of explain how that's going to work?
Yeah, so the resiliency component is really a factor, and it's a good alignment in this situation, because when the grid goes down, these batteries are unable to serve the transmission grid and make you money commercially. And that's the time when the military needs it. So in the agreement, there is the ability for the priority really being you and your commercial needs, other than 2 weeks, which are scheduled well in advance. And then when the grid goes out, the military is able to then use those batteries as a backup. And then when the grid comes back, you'll be able to take priority, come back, dispatch. So it's really at times other than the training, when you're unable to use the batteries is when the military will use it for resiliency.
Thank you, member Spellick, for that question. Any additional questions? We still got member Bob Patel on the screen there. Any questions?
Do you have other projects around in the cities?
Yeah, so if you're familiar with East County, San Diego, Viejas, Viejas is building a very large microgrid right now. It has 60 megawatt hours of these batteries. So this is 48 megawatt hours, is a little smaller than there. There's also Camp Pendleton has batteries. Ontario has a hospital that has 8 megawatt hours. And then Marine Corps Air Station Miramar also has.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any further questions? Then I would make a motion to adopt resolution number. Yes. Oh, any public
Thank you.
comments, please? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We do have one speaker,
Thank you.
Lane Stewart.
Lane, thank you.
Good afternoon, Lane Stewart at 425 South Tremont Street. My question is, with the purchase price of this battery facility and the infrastructure, is that being paid by CES and getting grants to do that as cost of, charging in the daytime, you're going to be buying it, but less, dollars per kilowatt. And when you discharge the battery into the grid during the night, there's demand by us consumers. Does that change? Because historically, the cost per kilowatt from a battery storage facility is 10 times greater or more than what is, produced by solar or wind or hydro during the daytime. So how does that balance out, or do you balance that out in your design of how you charge the consumer for power?
Thank you for your comments. I would love to hear from staff any response to public concerns.
Yeah, so thanks for the comment and sort of the question. How these agreements are usually structured is that in order for these long-term projects to receive financing for the portion of the project that's not grant funded, they need a steady source of revenue. Assuming the project's built and it's operational, then they need to how much we're going to be compensated per year to get the financing to develop the project. CEA then is the one responsible for, so receives the revenues for energy arbitrage is what it's called, but charging it and discharging it in a way where you're able to make money. The same structure, but in addition to that, there is the value from the resource adequacy itself. That's something that we need to go out and procure anyway. We, as part of our agreement, we get the resource adequacy from this resource as well. So those are kind of the two components of the value. We get the resource adequacy, which we would have had to go out and procure, and along with, very similar to any other battery, we're the ones who are receiving the compensation if prices are low in the middle of the day and high in the charging at the cheap times and discharge.
Thank you.
And yeah, I just think it's, just to add on to that, I think it's important to note that we have to meet, excuse me, these regulatory obligations with long duration storage, these midterm reliability obligations. What we try to do is find projects that not only meet those obligations, but over time can provide value, as well as discharging during peak times that we may be able to reduce our costs and reduce our RA obligations overall. So that will all factor into how we establish our rates. That's part of our budget process. And in terms of what we pass along to the customers, I think it's important to reiterate that we have, one of our objectives is to have stabilize our rates and keep them consistent. And as we've reported last year, when we did our first rate adjustment in almost, I think 2 years, is to consistently maintain those rates. So we don't expect to have to adjust our rates in the near term as a result of this or any of the projects that we're obligated to contract for.
Thank you. I had one further question, more historical. I think I asked you, Mr. Wade, about the development of the battery storage on Camp Pendleton, if it was prompted by any state legislation that you're aware of.
I do know that, thank you for the question, Chair Melendez, that there have been some mandates at the federal level for defensive readiness as well as reliability and use of renewables through, as well as climate adaptation throughout some of the facilities. What I will say is that I think I can't answer specifically if this was at a mandate at the federal level, but what I can say is it does satisfy the objective of defensive readiness when you consider that one of the components is to provide a backup power for Camp Pendleton should the grid have an episode, either a power safety shutoff or there's some other impact to the grid that would otherwise leave Camp Pendleton with no power. So that is a key component of this project and one of the reasons why it was eligible for the funding that it received.
Wonderful. Thank you. I look forward to seeing how this project provides for a low fire risk battery storage option, as well as helping us meet our needs for resource adequacy. And before we entertain a motion on this item, I just wanted to recognize Member Figueroa has arrived. Is there anything that our secretary needs to do in order to get him prepared to participate in a vote?
Thank you, Chair. Just for the record, I will note that Board Member Figueroa arrived at 3:03 p.m.
Okay, thank you. And I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution number 2025-005 for this battery storage agreement.
I'll second that motion.
So technically, she was asking to entertain a motion, so it would be appropriate to make the motion.
My
Will you be
apologies for
making
that
motion?
confusion. I'll make the motion.
I'll go ahead and second that.
Sorry
for you.
about that.
No problem. We have a motion and a second. Can we please call the vote?
Board Member Spellich,
Yes.
Board Member Nunez,
Yes.
Becker,
Yes.
Board Member Bhat Patel,
Yes.
Board Member Figueroa,
Yeah.
Vice Chair Garcia,
Yes.
Chair Melendez.
Yes. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to item 11, 2025, 2026, and 2026, 2027, Clean Energy Alliance Strategic Plan.
Thank you, Chair Melendez and members of the board. Before I get into the strategic plan, which this is a draft strategic plan being brought forward for the first time to the board for review, comment, and input. I'd like to thank our staff as well as our consultant staff who provided input and have worked on several strategic planning efforts for other CCAs throughout the state. And so this is, again, a draft that we want to present to you to guide our discussion of projects and programs as we move forward in the next 2 fiscal years. The objective of this plan is to establish, as I mentioned, guiding principles and goals for CEA through the fiscal year 26-27. As part of that, as I also mentioned, we have been working with our input over the last year from the board and the Community Advisory Committee to take those directives and the projects and programs we've been authorized to proceed with to establish a set of core guiding principles of the strategic plan, formalize those. We've got a couple ideas for a mission statement for CEA that we'd like your input on, strategic objectives, and to establish a process and a work plan that we would then bring back to the board with the final draft of the strategic plan. And then have parameters for tracking our progress on that work plan. Just an overview. I think I've said a little bit of this. We began this process in the summer and fall of last year. We gathered input from our partners, as I mentioned. We're presenting this first draft to the board this month at the board meeting, focusing on the core guiding principles, the mission statement, and our objectives. And next month, we'll be taking this to the Community Advisory Committee for their input. We'll develop the final strategic plan and input comments and directives from the board, as well as the input from our Community Advisory Committee, and bring it back to you in March with the final plan, and then adopt a work plan moving forward, which would incorporate those goals and objectives and inform the budget for the next fiscal year. So looking at the first element of this, the foundation of this plan, we then developed core guiding principles. This is not going the way I expected it to. Sorry. There we go. So, of course, the first document that we referred to in putting together this strategic plan is our Joint Powers Authority, our JPA agreement. And these are excerpts from that agreement. That's also part of the strategic plan that you have in your package. That shows that we are looking to provide competitive rates to SDG&E. We've targeted a rate discount in our JPA agreement. We're looking at achieving and sustaining goals of our respective member agencies' climate action plans. And we're, of course, looking to lower our greenhouse gas emissions through the procurement of renewable resources and development of new renewable and carbon-free resources, and making sure that our portfolio responds to those directives. As I mentioned, we have a renewable portfolio standard that is to achieve a 100% renewable target in 2035, by no later than 2035. And we have a power supply with a base product of 50% renewable, which we've been doing. And then also looking at our discretionary revenues and the policies under which we expend those discretionary revenues. Some of the activities, this does not. Okay, well, I apologize for this. We had a glitch with putting in the slide that this was updated. It is not updated here. I'll just review what should be here. I apologize for this. We have completed CEA's Phase 4 expansion, the cities of Oceanside and Vista, and we've implemented board-approved programs to benefit our customers, the Solar Plus program, and these are customers as well as the Solar Plus program. We've approved a program to provide benefit to our lower income residents for these programs. We're pursuing long-term energy contracts, one of which was just presented to you on storage to meet our obligations outlined in our JPA. And we are participating in regional energy programs. The San Diego Regional Energy Network is one of those efforts that was just approved this last year by the Public Utilities Commission. And we're actively engaged at the regulatory level and legislative level to advocate on behalf of our customers. So looking at the core guiding principles, we developed 6 of those. And again, we're looking for input. Hopefully we're identifying the right priorities. The first of which is to promote and use of development of clean energy, to build and maintain financial stability, to provide beneficial customer programs, and a few of which I just mentioned, actively engage in customer advocacy, provide exceptional customer service and community engagement, and then to provide organizational development. And I'll get into that in the next item as well. As I mentioned, we looked at ways to simplify our overall objective. And so in considering what our mission statement might look like, we asked ourselves, what is it we do? What are we good at? Who are our customers? What is our value added proposition for those customers, and what makes us unique? And again, looking for input, these are just two examples of mission statements that we put together. CEA is committed to empowering communities by providing accessible, sustainable, and cost-effective energy choices and programs, enabling individuals and businesses to actively participate in shaping a cleaner, greener energy future. The next one we came up with was a little bit shorter than that: to empower communities with the choice of sustainable and affordable energy, fostering local economic growth, environmental responsibility, and community well-being. And again, just ideas we have, and we're open to input on those as well. Looking at our strategic objectives, we then took each one of those core guiding principles and looked at ways to implement those principles. So for the first one, to promote the use and development of clean energy, obviously the goal from our JPA agreement is to achieve 100% renewable energy by 2035. We are currently implementing a program to highlight our customers who've opted up to 100% renewable, the Green Impact product. Support customer access to grant-funded and/or ratepayer-funded energy efficiency programs. Again, two ways we're doing that is to supplement our Solar Plus program with SGIP, Self-Generation Incentive Program funding, as well as to participate in the San Diego Regional Energy Network, which has funding that can implement energy efficiency programs for customers throughout the county. And then another program that we are working on is the Southern California Equitable Building Decarbonization Program that was funded with $329 million for the Southern California area, 22 million, I believe, of which is allocated to San Diego County, again, to look at energy efficiency programs from an equitability standpoint to reach communities of concern. And then, of course, to pursue renewable generation projects locally. Building and maintaining financial stability is, of course, important. And as I mentioned, we are completed with almost completed with phase 4, the Oceanside Vista enrollment. We are still enrolling net energy metering customers, solar customers, at their annual true-up through the middle of this year. So that is ongoing, but by and large, we're effectively stable in terms of our expansion. So the objectives under this core principle would be to achieve sufficient financial reserve to support rate stability and to achieve a investment grade credit rating. We will analyze and adjust rate premiums coming up in the coming months for our Clean Impact Plus and Green Impact products to ensure appropriate cost recovery for those products. And again, as per our JPA agreement, offer competitive rates while maintaining financial stability. That is an important part of meeting our covenants with JP Morgan, our financial backer for our credit worthiness, and to reduce costs by reducing peak load through energy demand management programs, one of which the board just approved tonight with our Peak Smart program. We, of course, want to continue to emphasize provision of beneficial customer programs, providing all customers with access to these programs to reduce energy and to reduce their electricity costs, provide access to solar and battery storage to all segments of the community. Again, that has been approved with our Solar Plus program. Expanding access to solar and battery systems at significantly reduced cost, which again, we approved in November. Encourage participation in state-funded income-based assistance programs. We mentioned earlier the CARE and FARA program. FARA is the Family Electricity Rate program, and that's similar to the CARE program, the California Alternative Rates for Energy, which provides a 30% reduction for eligible customers. And the FARA program provides 18% reduction on electricity costs. And so part of our effort is to make sure that those programs which exist today already are being enrolled at a level that that meets what our actual demographics would show. And identifying and designing energy programs for government, local governments and government facilities, and then to collaborate to expand our programs, which we are doing in our regional efforts with the SDREN, San Diego Regional Energy Network, and the Equitable Building Decarbonization programs. Another thing we continue to be involved in, and obviously Tim Lindell and Keys and Fox assist us with this effort, is to consistently and continually advocate on behalf of our customers. We are maintaining our active participation not only in the regulatory process, but in the legislative process. I'd like to mention, which would have been part of the CEO report, that this week CalCCA, California Community Choice Aggregation Association, held their annual lobby day up in Sacramento yesterday, and Emily Fabic, our regulatory analyst, and I were up there to meet with virtually representatives of all our assembly member representatives and Senate representatives at the state level. We had group meetings with staff from the governor's office, the chair of the Assembly Energy Committee, to advocate on behalf of our customers. And primarily, as is probably no surprise, the emphasis was on affordability of electricity costs and also maintaining the flow of revenue from the federal government to support some of these overall objectives. So those were front and center with some of those discussions. We plan to actively advocate for CEA and all CCAs and our customers on affordability issues and renewable energy procurement. Another hot topic is that of resource adequacy. Moving to the slice of day model is proving to be challenging for CCAs, and we're looking at expanding the ability to actively market on a slice of day period between CCA or among CCAs, which currently we cannot do, and that would really help to decrease costs of resource adequacy. And then engaging with local elected officials to communicate the benefits of our program, CEA, and our ability to provide benefit to the community. So that effort yesterday was well attended, and we got positive response. And I want to say that we met with members of both sides of the aisle, so to speak, and had good meetings with all our representatives at the staff level. The fifth, provide exceptional customer service and community engagement. We want to increase our presence in the community, and to some of the questions about how do we engage with and communicate with our customers, that's going to be a key part of this effort, is to make sure that we get the word out, that our customers are reachable, to promote CEA as our energy service provider, as the energy service provider for our North County area, and to engage with customers about our programs that they're eligible for and the benefits they can enjoy, and also to develop a comprehensive customer service communication strategy, again, to the topic that was raised earlier, as to how we can reach these communities, particularly our diverse communities of concern, and how we can engage with them in a meaningful way. Oops. And finally, promote organizational development. This will lead into the item 12, expand upon our key operational processes, staffing, and workflows, working with performance evaluations and recruitment and onboarding, supporting employee development and professional growth and development for our employees. And I'm happy to say that we have this year and continue to get a lot out of a little. And by a little, I mean a few. They're all exceptional employees who are doing quite a bit of work. And we'll talk about that in the next item. So the objective for this strategic plan is to get your input. As I mentioned, I've outlined the calendar for how we expect to engage with the Community Advisory Committee, come back with a final strategic plan and work plan, and we're looking for any input that you might have. And by the way, I would not limit that input to just this meeting, but if something comes to mind in the coming weeks and month or two ahead, by all means, contact me and we can work to incorporate that into the strategic plan. So happy to answer any questions. And again, thanks to all the staff and our consultant team that helped put this draft plan together.
Thank you, Greg. Do we have any public comments on this item?
We do not have any speakers on this item.
All right, I'll just start some comments to say, I wouldn't have any overwhelming changes that I would make. I think, Greg, what you're presenting to us now really captures the ongoing vision of the board, what we've been working towards, key factors such as fiscal stability, as well as providing more programs to our customers. And one of the top items that really stood out to me was the customer advocacy. It's an area where we don't typically, wouldn't typically see ourselves as a legislative advocacy organization, but we have had to do that because there's a lot of policy implications in the clean energy work that we're providing. Are we having any issues with audio or anything? Okay. I was having a bit of feedback. I would say regarding the mission statement, I like the concise nature of the second statement. I like the term choices that's there, but it might be missing a little bit more robust language around our community and around inclusion. So that would be my feedback for the mission statement. But overall, I do think that the guiding principles are very in line with the board's vision that I have seen and are only, as we continue to develop the strategic plan, this is our first look at it. I imagine that our new board will help to shape that. So with that, I'd love to hear additional comments from the board. Member Garcia?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I agree. I think the second mission statement's great. I wouldn't change really anything about it. I mean, I'd love to hear, love the input, but I do like the second one. I want to make two quick comments. One is I've spoken with a few people in the community and they are very impressed by the help they've gotten from CEA. So I want to just say that publicly. You guys are doing a great job. People have, when I've talked to them about the CEA, they've said nothing but good things. So thank you all. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is regarding, what we could kind of, and Greg, you and I have spoken about this. Speaking of the community, I think we do need a little bit more organic community outreach when people who are, and I love that you guys have the booths at, different events. You guys are available. You guys do a great job, but anybody who's not plugged into what's happening regarding energy in the area or in the region, they don't know what the CEA is, what you all do. You guys do great work. I think you guys need to be able to explain it better to the public because, again, about 95% of people I talk to, they don't know what the CEA is. They never heard of it. And even though they've gotten the mailers or, the letters in the mail, they might have delegated or they got lost or something. So I think we do have to have a little bit more presence on social media or where the community is in general. And that's about it. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah. Other comments? Member Nunez?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is fantastic work so far. I'm really glad to see that we have the workings of a strategic plan. I think it's important to have this guiding document for us, for our customers, for staff. So I'm really pleased to see the progress that we have. I agree with the comments that have been made so far in terms of needing a little bit more strengthening and polishing. And having said that, I am wondering, is this document available for our customers to comment, to look at? What does that engagement look like?
We can certainly do that. I think we tend to rely on our community advisory committee to be our sort of eyes and ears and feet on the ground. So we'll be going to them February 13th in this chambers to talk to them about their input. But as far as making the draft available online, we can certainly look at doing that as well. If there's input that members from the community at large might have, we're certainly open to that as well.
Thank you for that.
Additional comments? Member Becker?
Yes, I need some more opportunity to take a better look at it, but I think it's a really good draft and happy to have this. It's sort of what city council members are used to, sort of working off of a work plan. So I think this is fabulous. And I'm also in favor of the second mission statement, just being a little bit more simplistic is good for me. And I also think it's a good reminder that even myself, I'm not sure if I'm on the constant contact. So I'm just not sure how would people get to make sure that they're in touch with us with constant contact. And also just to remind the board members also to go on to your Instagrams and your Facebooks or the CEA websites and just take a look at all that stuff and make sure we're all plugged into all that stuff so we can be informed. Thank you.
Right, I definitely think that there's an appetite for taking this big vision that we have and digesting it into, bites that the community can access. And so it could be an effort for us to put it before the Community Advisory Committee. But it may be worthwhile to even do a little bit more communications in our email contacts and on social media to put these, was it 6 guiding principles into, 6 slides to really capture what are the things that Clean Energy Alliance are going to be working on. And, I'm confident that this is covering our bases, right? It's, there's really not much more that I could add or want to take away. It's really fine tuning, specific language, which as it comes before us again, I'll definitely be reviewing it before we have another chance to go over. But we'll have a couple iterations that are reviewed by members of the public and advisory committees. And so I think that we'll be able to, as some have mentioned, polish it further. But I think overall, really great step towards strategic planning. And it's going to allow for a lot of cohesion in our workflow in our organization. So I appreciate that. So seeing no further comments, this was just an item for us to give feedback to staff. And from you, Member Spellick? Okay. Now we'll go ahead and move forward with item 12, and that's amending Clean Energy Alliance position control listing and amending the Clean Energy Alliance salary schedule. Go ahead, Greg.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. To follow on with the strategic plan, as you can imagine, with the completion of the Phase 4 expansion, we increased with the increase of our service territory, our customer accounts, and our responsibilities. The workload has certainly increased as well. And so we're looking for the board to approve and support the adoption of 2 resolutions as part of this action. One that would amend the CEA position control listing and one that would amend the CEA salary schedule. Just a little bit of background, by prior board actions, the board had approved 6 positions that are currently filled, and you saw the staff in the last slide of the strategic plan. There you see list. Oops, I haven't moved this one. There it is. There you see those positions that were approved by this board and have been filled. These were added to the control listing in fall of 2023. And as I have recently just stated, with the expansion of our area has come a corresponding increase in workload. And so we are looking to make up for that workload and provide an acceptable level of service to our customers. So we're looking to expand in this calendar year. The initial priority for this expansion, as outlined in the staff report, would be on the energy procurement and data analytics and the programs, finance and administrative support. And then over time, we will be looking to alleviate our need for consultant services by retaining in-house staff. So we are looking for the support of the board for these additional positions. This would include an energy analytics and risk manager or analyst, an energy contracts and compliance manager or analyst, a programs specialist or analyst, a key accounts specialist or analyst, a financial analyst, and an administrative clerk. Which would add to the existing 6 positions for a total of 12 positions. Let me back up first. What I wanted to say about the way we hope to recruit for these positions, and I believe I have a slide that talks to this at the end, is to recruit for a wide variety of skill levels, so that you see here risk manager or analyst or specialist or analyst. The idea would be to have a recruitment that would solicit a wide range of skill levels, so that we can see what kind of applicants we attract through these recruitments and hire in those categories or above. So we may find a really high level employee that at the analyst level that we'd want to bring on. Of course, we might find somebody at the manager level. And so it's really about keeping our options open as we recruit for these positions. On the salary schedule side, we are looking at salary ranges, which we have analyzed through other comparable positions in the CCA world, community choice aggregation world. And those are the proposed salary ranges for the positions that we would be adding to the salary schedule that has already been approved by the board. And again, it does provide a wide range for negotiation, but also skill level. So we are initially looking for the support for recruiting 4 of these 6 positions right away. Those would be the energy analytics and risk analyst or manager, energy contracts compliance analyst or manager, and then on the programs and key accounts side, a specialist or analyst in each of those divisions. The idea would be to, should the board support this, immediately start that recruitment process and try to have them on board by the end of this fiscal year. And as I mentioned before, the way we would do this is tailor these recruitments to attract applicants with a broad range of qualifications, so that we can see what's out there in the world to hopefully bring on board. Another item or 2 items that we're seeking approval for on this action is a position title change for the board secretary administrative assistant to the clerk of the board executive assistant. That's more in keeping with this industry standard, and there'd be no salary impact on that that change. And then also we're looking at seeking lobbyist services on a consultant basis on the legislative side. I think it was made even more clear this week that having that presence would be exceedingly helpful, given that there is a lot of movement right now in the energy world for legislation that is addressing a number of things, including affordability, including battery energy storage, resource adequacy, and other cost implications. So looking for that authority as well. The fiscal impact, if we hire these 4 positions or are able to by the end of the fiscal year, there's sufficient room in this fiscal year budget to accommodate those 4 positions I just outlined. And then, of course, we'd be back in front of the board for our next fiscal year budget, which would incorporate both those 4 positions as well as the other 2 positions, should the board approve and support those positions and their corresponding salary schedules. Again, we're looking for support on those resolutions, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Before we go to member comments and questions, do we have any public speakers on this item?
We do not have any speakers on this item.
All right, then any comments from the board? Member Garcia?
Thank you so much for this. Can you go back to the energy analytics? I'm sorry, to the positions in this proposed salaries? Yeah, you just had it. Okay, so the fork that you are proposing initially, we would be looking at, it looks like on the high end, about 600,000. If we were to do that, are we expecting, and I know you mentioned it's in the budget, but would we be expecting energy prices to go up at all, or are we looking that it would stay the same?
Thank you for that question. Actually, right now, we're seeing in the markets, renewable energy prices are going down slightly as our resource adequacy prices. Can't bank on that for sure. But what I will say is in the agenda packet that was provided to you, the results are in our treasury reports for both October and November show a net position of 28.5 million roughly dollars, which puts us ahead of our projections for this fiscal year. And we're still looking at the end of this fiscal year, June 30th, to be above our projections. That budget included it's roughly about a 3.1% is our operational budget, the rest being energy costs. Within that was a 25% flexibility on the staffing side. So again, we expect to have ample room to accommodate that high end of those positions should we have applicants who are qualified to meet those salary targets, to answer your question.
Okay, perfect. That's what I wanted to know. Yeah, if that's the case, I do appreciate too that you're looking to do it incrementally as opposed to hiring 11 people right off the bat. So I think I would be able to support 4 people. The other thing I do want to support is the change in the title. I think that's good. And seeking a lobbyist, I think that actually might be something that I would push for expedience. So sooner than later, I would propose it with the additional 4, just because from my experience from work at city council, I understand the very high value that a lobbyist could actually bring and the monies that a good lobbyist could provide. So I think it definitely not just offsets, but has a high ROI. So that's it for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you for those questions. I tend to agree. I think we're in the question right now as a board of, I appreciate you asking plainly, can we afford to hire more staff? And I also think we should consider, can we afford not to hire more staff? It's, in discussing this with Greg, I am, tend to be very prudent and slow to growth because I want it to be sustainable. But we have depended on, kind of supplemental services for quite some time. And so I'm hoping these additional roles could help us to move beyond that. And with the additional positions in contracts, we will be better, prepared to provide energy resources for our customers, potentially being able to get better deals. And that could ultimately result in some cost savings as well. So I think there's still some numbers to be seen as to what positions we're able to fill. But I do generally support, increasing our staff and improving the salary schedule as long as it is based on competitive salaries that have evaluated from similar type organizations. Additional comments? I think I saw a hand, Member Spellich.
You may have covered this, but I admire your, trying to cast a wide net and things like that. I think that's a good idea. Have you made any estimates as you hire and then you reduce reliance on purchase services? Have you sort of made any guesstimates on timing of that and amount?
Yeah, we have actually. Thank you for that question. We are looking at our consultant services on the procurement side. We have a pretty good relationship with our consultant there, and our manager, our procurement services manager on staff has done a pretty detailed analysis of where we could start to wean ourselves off, so to speak, those services. And that's part of our calculation here. We're under contract with that consultant through the end of this calendar year. So we will be working with them to see how we might be able to modify that agreement and I don't know that at this point, it doesn't look like a $1-for-$1 savings as expenditure, but it will certainly move us in the direction of being able to save some of that money and bring it in-house. So we have done that, yeah.
Good question. Thank you for that. Additional comments, discussion? I'm supportive of this. I would say, are we able to make a motion to approve both recommendations at once? Okay, any additional comments? We'll need someone to make a motion to adopt both resolutions on this updated hiring policy.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll call for votes.
Board Member Spellage,
Aye.
Board Member Nunez,
Aye.
Board Member Becker,
Yes.
Board Member Bot Patel,
Aye.
Board Member Figueroa, Vice Chair Garcia,
Yes.
Chair Melendez.
Aye. Great, thank you for passing that. That concludes our items for today. We will just move forward with any requests for future agenda items. Does anyone have any future requests for agenda items? And as your new chair, I did check in with Greg about this. We have constituents who we are responsible to, and there might be different discussions that we want to have as a regional board. And so I just want to empower any of our board members. Feel free to bring your comments forward of items you'd like to see here. And at any time, you can make those requests to our CEO and he will put it on the agenda for us to discuss. So I'm open to having any discussions that you would like. And that means that our next meeting will be February 27th here in the Oceanside Chambers. And-
Actually, correction, I'm sorry, that will be a special meeting.
Oh, a special meeting. Okay. It's not a regular.
Chambers are
board meeting.
not available on that date. Go ahead, Kaylin.
Yeah, due to this chamber not being available, there will be a cancellation notice sent out for the regular meeting on February 27th at 2 p.m. And the location will just be at the City of Vista on February 27th at 2 p.m. So just the
And we're gonna
location
be
is
in Vista.
changing.
Okay, that's great. All right, so the meeting time and date will be the same. Location will be in the City of Vista. All right, and with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
I guess I'm on constant contact. You think these clean energy lines?